Well, hey there, YouTube. It's Petey Two Finger, and I wanted to do this video. We just had Father's Day the other day, and I had an article from my brother, which he had mailed me this article, and it featured some images of a motorcycle that my father owned, and this brought me back to thinking about my dad and how his love for motorcycles. So I'm going to do a video about a couple of my dad's bikes. The first one is a 1966 BSA Thunderbolt. He paid $532 cash on February 5th in 1966 at Motus Cycle, MOTISS hyphen cycle. Motus Cycle. It was a BSA / Royal Enfield dealer. Royal Enfield is a British motorcycle brand that I was not aware of. My brother knows much more about this stuff than I do. BMX was more my speed. I wasn't. My brother, when you see him riding a motorcycle, he's fluid with it. Like, he becomes part of the bike, and he's just able to jump and operate the motorcycle very fluidly, I would say, where it just seems very naturally for him to do that. It's amazing in watching him ride. As opposed to someone like me, watching me ride, you're going to see a crash. So this was 603.5 Roosevelt Road in Maywood, Illinois, which was very close to where I grew up in River Forest. So should we pop over and take a look and see if we can find what does a 1966 BSA Thunderbolt look like even? The Beezer BSA Thunderbolt. Let's see what comes up here. And it's exactly what I had pictured in my mind. Oh my goodness. I doubt, like, having the choice, he probably would have gone for the chrome and black, or maybe the blue and black. Maybe. See, this one's nice too. I never could second guess though. But let's take some. Oh, look at that. Let's take a look at a closer image of this. 650 cc's. What an elegant, just a beautiful machine. No wonder my dad was into this stuff. Look at that, the simplicity in design. Here's your horn, exhaust manifold, spark plug, fuel valve, Kickstarter here. Inside here would be the oil maybe, or maybe even a battery. See, a lot of these bikes didn't have a battery, they had a magneto. And a bike like this wouldn't have had a battery. I would be surprised if it did. Look at that, the speedo goes up to 150 miles an hour. Here we have this black and silver. I really like the way this looks. And look at that Beezer, that emblem on there. Man, it says Thunderbird, or Thunderbolt, excuse me. I like that, this tapered exhaust. I really like the way that exhaust looks. This seems to be a classic, like when you say Beezer, like this is kind of what comes to mind. Exactly this bike right here to me. And I am in no means an expert or an enthusiast, but like almost ape hanger handlebars, almost, you know. It's just a beautiful bike. Look at that. How much fun you could have back in the summer of 1966, or how about the summer of 1967? Summer of love, baby. And I missed it by one day. I was born the first day of fall, 1967. Look at that. It almost looks like Illuminati, like there should be a all-seeing eyeball in there, or some kind of a char sticker, for heaven's sakes. And last but not least, okay, so one in good condition is worth $6,200. The most recent sale, almost 10 grand, and the highest sale, $33,000. Must have been a Mint-Ola. I like this shock look. I like that black sleeve on there, and then the black in here. Really just a beautiful looking machine, isn't it? No wonder my dad went for that one. No wonder. Now, moving forward, he had a Moto Guzzi, and we don't know. I spoke with my brother about this. I'm going to say 1977. Okay. Now, that's the thing about in 77, because my brother said that the bike that my dad had was the same type of bike that's in Dirty Harry Magnum Force movie. Okay. Now, I do remember it specifically having this chrome thing on the tank. I remember the seat being like a double seat. He had custom pipes on it that came up a little bit more, and that bike had I think it had a clear fairing on it. So I'm not sure if it was the Eldorado or was it the... And the reason I'm saying this is because I remember his bike being more of like just a boat, just like this huge, like really impressive. Like I think that was the only bike that he did. Did it have a fairing, or am I tripping? So this let's try 1977. Yeah, see, they don't, these aren't having, okay, here's one. Yeah, look at that. This is what reminds me of my dad's bike. This reminds me of it more, but a different seat. He had like, it was more like a double seat, because there was like a seat for him and then one for a passenger in the back. And I think he had those little, it had those little saddlebags on there. I mean, maybe and again, I could be completely wrong, but like, see this with this, like, it looks like a cop fairing, doesn't it? So this bike had, he had it custom painted, and it was like a cream yellow, I would say. It was an odd color and had blue pinstripes on it, and he had these custom pipes that came they were just like really kind of jutting out a little bit higher and more. Beautiful exhaust. And this bike, this Moto Guzzi, it was a looker bike. Like it was, he had the custom paint on it, and then it said Lilla Björn. Little Björn, that's my younger brother's name, B-J-O with the umlauts, R-N. Little Björn. And he would sit him on the tank, and Björn would grab onto the handlebars. My dad would ride this thing with the kid up there. And I remember going to this place, like on maybe State Street, like on the way to see my grandma in Joliet, like Lockport. There was some motorcycle place, and I remember going there with him, and he was like, wait in the car, and he went in there for like 2 hours and then came out, and then later on took the delivery on that bike. So I was there with him when he ordered it, and I'm guessing he had saw those bikes in Magnum Force, and that's how he got it in his head that he wanted one, because it was just such a badass looking motorcycle, and they were really cool. So whatever model he had, it like I said, it was like a show bike. Like, whoa, like this wasn't like that Triumph. This was like, it was something that was so magnificent. Like, he didn't even really ride it that much. Like, seriously, it was huge. This thing was like a boat. This is my memory of it. I was a little kid on a BMX bike. I had a we'll look at my bike. I had a Yamaha BMX that had a suspension. Now, he got the custom paint done. Little Bjorn put my little brother on the tank and went out on this road trip on a Saturday afternoon, like after lunch. Went out riding with Bjorn in the tank, and he came back after like, it seemed like an hour and a half. And he pulled in, boom, 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 shuts the bike off, picks my little brother up, picks him up, and I come up riding on my bike and look over, and what I see is Bjorn had his little tennis shoes on the pipes, and they completely melted the rubber. And when my dad picked them up to take them off the bike to set them down, it was like a Pizza Hut commercial where this white rubber stuck to the exhaust. It went boing, like rubber bands on his shoes. And I looked at those pipes, and where the rubber was, they had ruined the chrome on those pipes. There was just splotches of black burnt rubber, and it was all bubbling and smoke shooting up. And oh, my dad was pissed. He was pissed. But I mean, it was his own, like, he, I'll put the kid on there and take him out. And like, he never thought, like, the kid's going to those pipes are up so high, he's going to think that those are to put his feet on. He's not going to realize, hey, they're 400 degrees. So later on, my dad ended up getting a BMW, and that's going to be the last bike that we're going to take a look at. But let's take a look at one of Petey's bikes. Yamaha BMX bike. Let's take a look at the Yamaha. It was a what was that thing called? (1975) Yamaha moto bike. And these shocks were this was a swing arm. There was a joint here behind the crank. There was a secondary joint for this. So this was a pivot point here. And these were real shocks. And it had that banana seat. These were YZ80 front shocks. And I had this bike, Yamaha moto bike. I think that's what it's called, the moto bike. This was the one I had that had the chrome. So you see, these are the YZ shocks. And I had that same chain guard. This is it. It had the reflector on the back with these. It had these cool, super cool fenders that someone ripped those off of my bike. And then you used to get, when you were wet, it would fling dirt up into your mouth and shit. And you'd have a skunk stripe on your back. But, yeah, the Yamaha BMX bike was really quite a piece of machinery. Mine broke right here. Someone else was riding it, and I was screaming at them not to ride it. On a jump we had spent quite a bit of time building, and broke the frame. And then my dad had this German guy, Conrad Kreuss, who was kind of a fix-all, just a brilliant guy fixing stuff. And he was like, I can weld this, but it's not going to hold. And it broke while I was riding it, which I remember getting messed up on that wipeout there. Was not fun. And then I had a first gen Mongoose, but I don't want to make this video about me. I had to show the Yamaha BMX bike because we were talking about this today, and it's kind of a neat little sidebar here. Really cool bike, and you could bunny hop and taking jumps on this thing. Okay, I think this was my chain guard. I was wrong. I had this. I don't think I had 3-piece cranks. See, this has been changed, and I don't know if I had that or if I've seen this. I think this is custom, and I've seen this. This is from a different bike. I think that chain guard that I originally said was mine, that black ugly one. Yeah, this is the chain guard that I had on my bike. It's a really weird bike, really cool because the shocks worked. Shocks worked really, really well. And as you can see, everybody took the fenders off of them and the chain guard off of them, but that's not always really the smart thing to do, especially if you want to keep the bike. Yeah, see how stupid it looks with this seat? If you want to keep some value on the bike. I wish that it never would have been broken, believe me. That was an incredible bike and I wish I had it, but it wasn't meant to be. So let's take a look at the BMW R80 GS. This was the last bike that my father had, and his was this midnight blue. This is a beautiful, beautiful bike. My older brother said that it may have been a bit heavy and a bit difficult to ride for my father, who wasn't as well at this end of his life. Nonetheless, it's a beautiful bike. It has these twin cam. Those are the heads, and they stick out the side, and the motor is this weird casing. Looks like a briefcase. It's kind of like almost like a modular system. The way this bike is kind of futuristic looking for back in the 80s. The way they put it together was really an insane piece of German engineering. And these bikes were ridden by enduro riders, which are the most talented, most skilled riders in the world. And my dad didn't ride this bike a real lot, and then he was gone. The skin cancer got him, and then there was a malpractice event that ended his life prematurely. But my mom ended up, my brother says she sold it for $500 or $300. I know that she had to get a title for it. My dad did not have the title for the bike, and she couldn't find the key for a while. And I had spoken with my brother today, and he had mentioned that the guy was a messenger. He was a bike messenger in the city, the guy that bought it, and ended up walking out from our garage in Willow Springs paying $500 or $300 for this 1980, 81, whatever it was, BMW R80 GS. Look at that. What a fine, fine machine. Now, my brother mentioned some colors on the seats. You see there's a red one here. So I'm not sure. It may have been a different model. Oh, my dad would have liked this. He liked the yellow. He used to go crazy for yellow. And if you see me playing a yellow guitar from time to time, that's something I decided to do in reverence for my father, and I've come to really appreciate that color on my guitars. I like yellow guitars now. That's my thing. But I adopted it from my father. His favorite color was always yellow. And I could look at these all day. I love motorcycles. I'm just not very good at riding them. Okay, you guys, thank you for joining me for this one. It's kind of a weird video. My dad's bikes. I will say I remember different motorcycle. As a kid, we lived in this river forest town, and in the garage, I remember a different bike. My brother said that some guys broke into our garage, and my dad either assaulted them or threatened them. There was something, and he caught these guys. But as far as what I remember coming up was like hearing that my grandma and grandpa kind of spoiled my dad, and they were like, our Johnny, like his name was John, and my mom married him. They got married, and then like his mom would come over with all these bags of meat and ice cream and be like, you're not feeding my Johnny good enough. Like, here's this food. And my mom was like, your Johnny's starting to get fat. And I mean, he did. You think I'm big? My dad, he was huge. So they were buying him bikes and pampering him. And I know that like the first Volvo that was sold in the United States, my grandparents bought one of those from is it International Motors, which turned it was this little rinky-dink car dealership. They could fit one car in the showroom, and there was barely room for a desk in there to sign the papers with this. It was so small, and that was on Stony Island in the city of Chicago. And that was that family that I ended up working for, where I hurt my back. This dealership, there's dealerships all over here out now where they've expanded. There was like 3 of them on one property, and now they've got, I think it's just 2 over there now, but they've got a couple other buildings in a couple other like nicer towns. So they've expanded a little bit. And as I mentioned, they bought that Volvo, the first Volvo that came over. They also bought my dad some motorcycles. So when he was younger, growing up, he was always kind of getting rewarded with these new. So as far as I know, and I could be wrong, but I seem to believe that my dad has owned Harleys, he's owned Triumph, he's owned Indian, he owned BSA, he owned Moto Guzzi, and he owned BMW. So it's like I feel bad for getting these used guitars for $50, sanding them down, breaking this unbelievable sweat, and then hand painting them and finishing them. And I'm like, I feel like I'm this terrible, like I'm this bad person because I don't really have any money and I'm not working and I hurt my back. And I will spoil myself with stuff like this, and then it's like, well, it could be worse, because my recollection of it was he didn't ride them that much. He should have been riding them more, considering what he would have spent. Like on that Moto Guzzi, that thing was it was quite the fine piece of Italian design and engineering, if I might say so myself. So yeah, that's the story. You know, I miss my dad a lot. We didn't have a real close relationship. I think that he thought that I was a goof, that he didn't think there was any hope for me, and he was probably glad that he checked out at the age when he did, because it was a relief off of him having to do the minimum amount of work to be a father. He played ball with us once. One time he got into a huge fight with my mom, because him and my mom were always fighting. And he was always like on the borderline of like punching her up, you know. But yeah, they got into this huge fight on Christmas, and he took me and my little brother to this park, and it was an unbelievably hot Christmas, and it had rained. So we played touch football in this park one time with my dad. I did something like that, and it was like the funnest thing. Like, he was laughing, and we weren't scared of him. It was really fun, you know. And so I did have that moment, and we spent a lot of time together going to this Action Faction at Santa Fe Speedway, this clay track where they race stock cars. So it was like pretty much my older brother went, but not religiously like I did. I went with my dad all the time, and we had a free pass. So it was like Sunday night, we would be there once a week for sure. and my younger brother went along as well. And I have some great memories of that, of sitting there with him for 3-4 hours a night with him not saying a word. Maybe he would take some photographs. So and then he died when I was 16, basically. It was like a couple weeks or something before my 16th birthday. So I do miss my father, and I really think that he ultimately, maybe he would have even been proud a little bit of me for this music stuff that I do. But that's not a really fair thing to say. That's like me wishing stuff into existence, And would I even be doing it if he wouldn't have died when he did? I think things would be a lot different for everybody in this family. That being said, it was a relief when he passed because he was really hard on us. So that was a lesson that I tried to carry through my life of trying to be nice to my kids and be their friends and talk them through issues rather than just use violence. And it didn't get me anywhere. My kids end up resenting me worse than I resented my father, who was horribly abusive to us. So life is crazy, and happy Father's Day to any of you fathers out there. If your kids didn't contact you, I really feel for you. That's nobody deserves that. But keep the faith and concentrate on your own gig, keeping your own self healthy and happy psychologically and physically. And if you do the right things, good things will come back to you. That's really the truth. That's how the world works. So try to be a little bit more accepting and a little bit more open-minded. Maybe it'll come back around to you. Maybe some of that love that you give you will receive. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's just bad luck. Just bad shit happens to people. Other times, I know I got it coming. So it's something to consider. Happy Father's Day. I know this is a little bit late. And I really do appreciate you guys. So thank you. Peace.